Namaskar. Welcome to Vision of Asia, a voice of the community on ITV Gold. This weekend, in this special edition of Vision of Asia, we will begin with a report of a virtual event organized by GOPIO in collaboration with Consul General's Office, and it was dedicated to COVID-19 and its updates. We will have our weekly this week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh about many events, and we will take you to a seminar organized by Indian Kerala Center, and this virtual seminar was organized to recognize frontline workers. A report on Kavi Sammelan dedicated to Nari Shakti organized by Association of Indian American Educators. We will also have Asian American Federation event Rise Up Against Hate. And Dr. Lisa talks to us about cardiac disease in South Asians and coronavirus. All this coming up right after these short messages. Stay with us. You're watching Vision of Asia, a voice of the community, and we begin with a special report coming from Consul General of India's office and a seminar organized in collaboration with GOPIO to share updates about COVID-19.
I also would like to once again thank GOPIO for taking lead in giving us a helping hand in dealing with the pandemic. When the pandemic was raging at its high last year, you came in support of students, of community members, of young ones, of old people, distribution of food, distribution of medicine, facilitating people's travel. All that is truly and deeply appreciated. I thank, we have a very distinguished speaker today, Dr. Hannah Axelrod, and I really look forward to her wise words as to how we can deal with this pandemic, what are its projections. To me, it seems that we are pushing the pandemic away with the vaccinations that are going on here in this country, in India and other parts of the world. But at the same time, the news that we get on mutations, on the vaccine trying to change itself is a cause of concern, not just for us, but everybody in the world.
Welcome everybody. Good evening, and Honorable Consul General Randeep Kumar Jaiswal, our distinguished speaker, Dr. Hannah Axelrod, GOPIO-Manhattan President, Shivendra Soffet, and the Executive Committee members. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring greetings to you from GOPIO International and as advisor to GOPIO-Manhattan. It is almost reaching one year since we are all homebound, and our New York area was the worst hit in the first half of last year. The country as a whole is still coming out of its peak from last month in coronavirus infection and death. Since the vaccination has got started in December, this webinar by Dr. Axelrod is very timely. Thanks to Dr. Arnab Ghosh for taking this initiative of organizing the webinar series on the health issues for our chapter, and we had a highly successful one on January 15th. And thanks to Dr. Asha Samant for putting together today's evening program.
We had a little COVID webinar a month back, actually a little more than a month back. And at that time, we had barely 2 vaccines approved. And just to think, within a matter of 7 weeks since we had that webinar, we now have in the US 3 approved vaccines. In India, we have 2 approved vaccines, and they have gone on to phase 2 trials. And just to think of the science, which has last year at this time, we were just seeing this disease spread, learning a lot about this disease and getting thoroughly scared about how quickly the pandemic has spread. And this spring, this winter and this spring, we have been primarily getting the good news about it, about the development of vaccines and It's really fascinating how well the science seems to have worked. So let me start off with a few questions that I got on the chat and a few more that I have been getting over the emails. So let me start off with a question that Ms. Belvarier just talked about, and she was asking, which vaccine is better? Do we know that yet? We have 10 vaccines now you talked about, at least 3 of them approved. Which is better?
The short answer is the one you can get. Now, we're not anywhere in the world, we're not anywhere near being able to pick and choose, at least not in terms of strategy. That said, as more vaccine doses become available, that does become a question. We may wish to use our highest efficacy vaccines, the mRNA vaccines, possibly for people who are older, who need the strongest levels of protection or the highest certainty. We may want to use them for healthcare workers. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine that was just authorized, we still have some data that will come in that will show if a second dose will make it even more effective. The AstraZeneca vaccine, as I said, there are ongoing analyses from data around the world. We are going to need to adjust our vaccine selection based on new variants. South Africa has demonstrated how this can happen in real time. So we need good surveillance and intelligence on a molecular level about what the virus is doing. So my last slide, we were very nearly at the end, but I don't want people to lose hope just because the virus made a move to evade our antibodies. Viruses do that. That's how they survive. We are a learning species and are able to adjust our vaccine supply. We have to finesse some of our processes for making new vaccines. And there will be new updates to all of these vaccines from year to year, I believe, similar to how we do with the flu.
I see. And another question that I got was, so Johnson & Johnson has a single dose. Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine seem to have 2 doses, one 3 weeks apart, one 4 weeks apart. Who decides these things and how do they decide these?
Yeah, great question. So taking it back to phase 1 and 2 studies, when you choose a group of maybe fewer than 100 volunteers and you measure their antibodies after dose 1 and after dose 2. And then the scientists in each of those development teams made a judgment call about, is that adequate antibody level after the first dose and does it last long enough? And then when that's translated into designing phase 3 studies, when you say, I am going to recruit 20,000 people and give them 1 dose of vaccine and ask them to come back 4 weeks later for dose 2. Well, where am I doing this trial? Are my patients able to come back? Where do I plan to use this vaccine in the future? Will I be able to track down every person and guarantee they'll get a second dose on schedule or not deviating far from that schedule? So that's where we will be interpreting data for a long time. There are some studies to see if the AstraZeneca vaccine is good enough after the first dose, if the Pfizer vaccine second dose can be delayed to 6 weeks rather than 3, if getting half of your population to 50% immune is better than getting 25% of your population to 90% immune. There's a lot of modeling going on like that.
Dr. Hannah Axelrod, presentation was excellent. And I learned one thing new, that there is something called COVID Intelligence Unit, which I was not aware of it, and she is the co-director of it. We appreciate your expertise in this field of vaccine. Our thanks go to Dr. Arnav Ghosh to coordinate this event and help us in Q&A. Dr. Thomas Abraham as an advisor and founder of this chapter. Without his help, the chapter wouldn't have existed. And of course, Dr. Asha Saman has been the force behind this event. Our special thanks go to Vijay Garg of Indus TV for streaming this event, and Chitran Belvaria for providing technical support for this evening. We are much obliged to all the media groups for their unwavering help. They are Indus TV, TV Asia, Parikh Worldwide, Media, Indian Eye, UNN News, PTS Punjabi, Radio Zindagi, and Divya Bhaskar. Finally, I thank all those who joined us this evening and those who asked questions, and to make it a more informative and interactive event. Now it is my privilege to introduce our president of the chapter, Shivinder Sofat, CPA. He is a real New Yorker, very resourceful, and has a great skill to contact.
So Indian American community will not have Neera Tanden at an important position with White House, but President Biden appreciated and recognized her commitment, her work, and he will try to involve her on some position where there is no need for confirmation by the Senate. That issue and many more in this week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh. Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and this week we have Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh with us for this special weekly session. Dr. Sahab, namaskar, welcome.
Namaskar.
So I want to begin with another important development from White House, where I think it was for the first time that someone from Indian American background was considered for such a high position. And, I'm talking about Neera Tanden. Talk to me about this whole thing of her being nominated and then due to opposition, she...
Well, I mean, it's an unfortunate thing. And we, Indian American or South Asian American, lost a great friend since she could not get nominated because of whatever her political activities during the Trump administration and before, because she was very active belonging to some think tank, and so she kind of roughened up a lot of senators and congressmen's sentiment, both Republican and Democrat, more on Republicans, and that's why I think they took the kind of revenge, so-called quote-unquote revenge, which is really in politics. I mean, if you look at the interest of the nation, it should not have done that. But it's unfortunate part of the politics, and we have to live with that. And we had Biden administration should have done a little more homework and selected her for something where you don't need to have Senate approval.
So I think President Biden heard you, because this is exactly what he told. In fact, I would also share the main reason which became the cause of such forceful opposition for her relates to her tweets. In one of her tweets, she compared Republic Senate leader Mitch McConnell to Voldemort. And for those of us who haven't read Harry Potter, he was the Harry Potter series villain and called him Moscow Mitch. And one said vampires have more heart than Ted Cruz. So, of course, she was referring to Republic Senator into Texas. But, Dr. Using this kind of language, it demonstrates that you are aggressive. But do you think she should have also have been observed some restraint while using her social media expressions?
I think so, because when you are in the active politics, when you are living in the glass house, you cannot throw stone on the other's glass house, because ultimately it comes back to you, boomerangs to you. So being a real politician, active in the politics or politician, whatever you call it, she should have been more diplomatic. And she should have kind of known this thing, because you can oppose somebody, you can criticize someone, but you cannot personally kind of vilify somebody.
Absolutely. And this probably somewhere is perceived as being aggressive, but then you reach to this situation. And allow me to share the statement of President Biden about her, which would make you feel proud as an Indian American if you just look at it from that point of view. He said, "I have the utmost respect for her record of accomplishment, her experience, and her counsel, and I look forward to having her serve in a role in my administration. She'll bring valuable perspective and insight to our work." So these are pretty good, decent complimentary words. Now, before we go to India and we also look at the way political discourse is developing in America, how do you see under President Biden America coping up with the challenge of COVID-19 so far?
I think so far so doing good, and actually President Biden announced yesterday that the government or CDC will have enough dosage to give the vaccine to each and every adult of the country by end of the May, and which is kind of 2 months earlier than what before they thought. So that shows that the manufacturing of the supply of the vaccine is not the problem. Now, only problem left is every state has their own way of distributing it. So they should that logistic they should improve it, ramp it up a little bit faster, and make sure that at least 70 to 80% of the population should get the vaccine by end of the May. Obviously, 100% is never possible because there are people who does not believe in it. So nothing you can do about it. And this is a free country. Everyone has right to have make a decision for themselves as far as health is concerned. So I think let's see, as long as 70% gets vaccinated, you will have herd immunity because already 30% of the population is already have COVID infection, and plus 70%, it means almost like 80 to 90% people have protection, and I think that's a good news.
So with that good news, Dr. I bring to your attention that people who are trying to get vaccinated, there are certain categories, and if they are not in the priority, then they don't get the chance of being vaccinated so far. And that is causing concern among some New Yorkers, that includes some viewers of ITV also, who say that if they are not above 65 and they don't have anyone working in the health industry, etc., so they are not considered for vaccination. Do you
But now
see that?
I think now the next month it will open up to everyone. Only logistic problem is to get the appointment, go to the site, and the operation of the site. Because I have seen some sites are very busy, some sites there are no patients for vaccination. So I think that's all a question of now local authority, how they handle or cope up with or how their logistic of the or housekeeping of the vaccine administration. There's nothing. Supply is plenty, so there should not be any excuse not to have vaccine properly given to everyone.
So hopefully everyone will get vaccinated soon. But there comes another question which you also alluded to, and there are some people who feel uncomfortable for either their precondition or whatever makes them think that they don't want to get vaccinated. In such situation, would you consider that as their right, their freedom, or it should be mandatory and compulsory for everyone?
No. In this country, by law, you cannot mandate vaccination to everybody, 100%, and you don't need to. As a scientist, as a doctor, I can tell you that if 30% people already have infection, and even 60% or 60% of the people gets the vaccine, or remaining people get the vaccine, there will be herd immunity. You don't have to worry about that. And then again, probably in the fall or next winter, we might need to get a second vaccine. Injection of the vaccine.
So that is quite a relief to hear that coming from you. For many people who feel that if some of their friends are not going in for vaccination, will that affect them also down the line? But now moving towards India and India's role in distribution of vaccine, and India has already vaccinated over 1.63 crore people. That includes Prime Minister Narendra Modi also getting vaccinated, and you must have also seen that image. That was also talked about. Yeah, you want to say something about Prime Minister Modi's leadership in?
The whole idea behind Prime Minister Modi took the vaccine in open public, because that inspires or that assures a lot of people that the vaccine is safe, and everyone should take the vaccine whenever they get a chance to take the vaccine. The same thing President Biden did here, our Vice President Pence did here. So that's how leadership should behave.
And that has also made everyone sort of share their image of getting vaccinated on their social media platforms. So overall, there's a momentum of getting vaccinated, but along with this, politics also continues to play its role. And with that, we talk a little bit about the upcoming state elections, and especially Bengal in India. You must have heard that Prime Minister already addressed over 20 rallies in Bengal, and there is so much emphasis of Home Minister Amit Shah, BJP president, as well as Prime Minister. How do you read? What do you read in this active interest of BJP in Bengal?
Well, I mean, the BJP goal is to to win that election, because Bengal is the only place where the BJP does not have a good hold, or they are not holding any kind of administrative position. So I think BJP goal is very clear, that they want to be come in the majority, and they do the they want to they want to form the government. And I think this time BJP has very good chances of winning the Bengal. And let's see, we hope for that and see what happens, because Bengal also needs now a change, because there is a 10 years of TMC government. Always any state or any politics, a change is always welcome, because that way people of the state can get benefit out of it.
Absolutely. And talking about Bengal, Congress has made alliances with one Indian secularist party, which is formed by someone who is known for his non-secular, in fact, anti-Hindu comments. Now, Congress making alliance with this kind of a party, how do you see this in terms of Congress long-term strategy? Someone who wished that by COVID, maybe 50 crore Hindus should die, and he shared that through his social media platform, forming this party. Now, Congress joining hands with him.
Well, I mean, probably Congress judgment is very poor judgment, but again, in democracy, this poor judgment will be kind of punished or by people of the country or people of the state when the election comes. And that's how in any democracy, whether you take a right decision or wrong decision, ultimately it will be proven by election results, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And Dr. I appreciate your presence with us. And before we conclude, I want to refer to one more issue which has come from Mumbai. And you might be aware there has been one bakery shop very famous in Mumbai since 1953. They said it is named Karachi Bakery. So now recently there have been protests because of its Pakistani name by Maharashtra Nav Nirman Sena, and finally it had to turn down its shutters, or probably they'll open up with another name. How do you see this? The sentiment against Pakistan is, of course, obvious, but playing out on the business ventures in this fashion, what do you read in this?
Well, I mean, it's very obvious that we are in the majority in India, right? And our sentiment for Pakistan is very obvious and very well known. So this kind of protest is expected, but sometimes in democracy, I think you can protest that, but you cannot carry on or take it to the different extent or extreme extent, because anything extreme, whether you agree or not, it's not a good idea in a way. But of course, the owner of the bakery should have changed their name long time ago, because he should know that sentiment of people of India against Pakistan is quite very, mildly speaking, very strong and very adversary. So I think every Indian citizen has a responsibility to make sure that that sentiment should not get hurt.
Absolutely. And let me share the comment of the owner, and he's a Sindhi Hindu Ramnani family guy, Wagmare, who migrated to India after partition. And so he carried the name of Karachi with him, probably that's why he opened and kept it. So he said this was a legitimate business with all valid licenses and approvals granted by government authorities. So then government should have also intervened, probably, looks like. But leaving it at that, as we conclude, your parting words for our viewers.
Well, again, dear friends, still we are in the pandemic. Good news is that we are almost coming out of the pandemic. Vaccination, a lot of plenty of vaccines available in the market. I mean, not I mean available through the health center and hospitals and other facilities. So please and go and get the vaccinated. Vaccine is very safe and is very useful for your own health and the health of your loved ones.
So
thank you, and we'll see you next week. Jai Hind. God bless America. God bless India, and God bless Indian American community. Thank you.
Indian American Kerala Center organized a virtual seminar, and it was organized with the aim to recognize frontline workers. Here are some highlights.
It is a great pleasure, and I am so proud to host this meeting for honoring our sisters and brothers working in the medical field and as first responders who sacrificed so much in these difficult times. You deserve our appreciation. കേരളത്തിലെ ഗ്രാമപ്രദേശങ്ങളിൽ ജനിച്ച് നേഴ്സിംഗ് പഠിച്ച് അമേരിക്കയിലേക്ക് കുടിയേറി സൂപ്പർ പവറായി രാജ്യത്തിന്റെ ഇൻവിസിബിൾ ശത്രുവിനെതിരെയുള്ള യുദ്ധത്തിൽ മുന്നണി പടയാളികളായ നമ്മുടെ സഹോദരി സഹോദരന്മാർ നമ്മുടെ അഭിമാനമാണ്. Many perished in this war, many injured, and still they did not retreat. They persisted. They got up every morning and went to serve their fellow human beings suffering from the pandemic. That is an amazing act of bravery which we need to appreciate. ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ അന്തിമ നിമിഷങ്ങളിൽ ആരോരുമില്ലാത്ത കഴിഞ്ഞവർക്ക് ആശ്വാസം പകർന്ന് ഒരു കൈത്താങ്ങായി നിന്ന കാവൽ മാലാഖമാരാണ് അവർ. അവരുടെ നിസ്വാർത്ഥമായ സേവനം നമ്മുടെ അഭിനന്ദനവും അംഗീകാരവും അർഹിക്കുന്നു. നമുക്ക് അവരോടുള്ള സ്നേഹവും കടപ്പാടും നന്ദിയും അറിയിക്കുന്നതിനാണ് ഈ മീറ്റിംഗ്. We have several dignitaries and community leaders with us to express their appreciation. We have Honorable A.K. Vijayakrishnan sir with us. He is Consul for Community Affairs at the Indian Consulate in New York. അദ്ദേഹം കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷം കേരള സെൻട്രലിലെ ഒരു പ്രോഗ്രാമിന് വരാനിരുന്നതാണ്. പക്ഷേ കോവിഡ് കാരണം അതിന് സാധിച്ചില്ല. കോവിഡൊക്കെ മാറി അന്തരീക്ഷം ശാന്തമാകുമ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ കേരള സെൻട്രലിലേക്ക് വീണ്ടും ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും.
Thank you to Kerala Center for honoring our frontline heroes. A special thank you to Alex Estepan and the entire board for inviting me. I am honored to take part in this program today. Let me start off by saying a big thank you to all our healthcare workers and essential workers for everything that they did for us and continue to do to keep this pandemic at bay. I'm so very proud of all of you. We owe you so much. All of you are our heroes. We're all going through a very tough time with the spread of COVID, and most of you are very likely to look at the past year and even this year as one of the most difficult times in our lives, personally and professionally. This global pandemic has impacted all of us very hard, directly and indirectly. From a governance standpoint, my district in New York was impacted with the death of so many individuals, jobs lost, businesses shut down, and communities devastated. I've seen homelessness rise, food lines grow miles long, but we are going to get through this because we are Americans and because we have dealt with a lot of things. And because we're smart, we are resourceful, and we are united.
The Indian community and specifically the Kerala community achieved another recognition, being the frontline workers and doctors as frontline workers as doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. You already heard from Kevin, our Senator Thomas, and Mr. Vijay Krishnan what the kind of work which they have been doing. And it's fit that we, Kerala Center, call this meeting to recognize them. Although we are only recognizing only some of them, while the total number is much, much higher. But it is we are conveying to all of them that we appreciate their work, we compliment, we thank you, and we pray for you in the kind of work which you are doing. I compliment Kerala Center for this great initiative, and I hope those who are not members of Kerala Center consider becoming a member.
Thank you so much. I'm not taking much time. The COVID-19 pandemic, we all know about that. Our healthcare workers, they were in the front line and fighting for us. So this is a great auspicious occasion to salute them. On behalf of FOMA, I take this opportunity to salute them. We wish you all the best. Our prayers, support, always with them. May Almighty God shower all the blessings, their day-to-day life. We salute them again and again. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ellarkkum ende namaskaram. Good evening, friends of the heroes, the frontline heroes, families, and all you out there celebrants who we want to recognize today. First of all, I want to thank you, Alex Estepan, and the Board of Directors of the Kerala Center for putting this program together, such a worthwhile program, and for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. Well, it's been more than a year. It was February 3rd when the US government declared it a public health emergency due to the pandemic. And we are getting used to living in this pandemic-afflicted world. But grateful people from all nations have been coming forward to celebrate the amazing healthcare and essential service workers because they exemplified the highest level of compassionate concern and their civic responsibilities in extremely trying circumstances. So I, too, joined the Kerala Center and the guests and dignitaries of the community gathered here today to acknowledge, to applaud, and to appreciate all you healthcare and essential service heroes. Truly, these men and women are my newest role models because they epitomize service over self-centeredness and others before self. Well, thank you does not seem enough, and calling them heroes sometimes comes short. That said, I still want to invoke the good Lord to continue to bless each of the frontline workers richly. And may you continue to inspire and touch more lives as you have touched mine.
You're watching Vision of Asia with the community on ITV Gold, and this program comes to you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Every weekend, this special edition comes on Sundays at 11 a.m. Thank you for joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these short messages. March is the month specially dedicated to recognize the contribution and the importance of women in our community. A special poetry session in Hindi was organized by Association of Indian American Educators, and the theme was Nari Shakti. Here are some highlights from that Kavi Sammelan hosted by Sushma Malhotra with Sarita Mehta.
एसोसिएशन ऑफ इंडियन अमेरिकन एजुकेटर्स न्यूयॉर्क द्वारा आयोजित अंतर्राष्ट्रीय महिला कवि सम्मेलन नारी शक्ति में आप सबका स्वागत है।
साल में हम एक एनुअल प्रोग्राम हर बार करते हैं इस एसोसिएशन के लिए। आज का जो प्रोग्राम है वो आप सभी एंजॉय करना।
In short, I can say सशक्तिकरण means नारी का, महिला का पावर में होना। So, जब नारी पावर में होगी तभी सब कुछ संभव है, वरना कुछ भी संभव नहीं है।
तो मैं सुमित्रा नंदन पंत की 4 पंक्तियों से सुंदरता का आलोक प्रस्तुत करती हूँ। सुंदरता का आलोक स्रोत है फूट पड़ा मेरे मन में। सुंदरता का आलोक स्रोत है फूट पड़ा मेरे मन में, जिससे नव जीवन का प्रभात होगा फिर जग के आंगन में। जिससे नव जीवन का प्रभात होगा फिर जग के आंगन में। मेरा स्वर होगा जग का स्वर, मेरा स्वर होगा जग का स्वर, मेरे विचार जग के विचार, मेरे मानस का स्वर्ग लोक, मेरे मानस का स्वर्ग लोक उतरेगा भू पर नई बार, उतरेगा भू पर नई बार।
सावनी बहार को, सावनी बहार को, प्रीत की फुहार को बूंद बूंद पी लिया। सावनी बहार को, प्रीत की फुहार को बूंद बूंद पी लिया, फिर जी भर जी लिया, फिर जी भर जी लिया।
यूं तो रहते हैं वो खामोश झुकी नजरों से, अदाए शौक का अंदाज कातिलाना है, अदाए शौक का अंदाज कातिलाना है। उनकी आँखों में छलकता हुआ पैमाना है।
एक कालखंड हमें अनुशिक्षित कर रहा, एक कालखंड हमें अनुशिक्षित कर रहा, जो था पुरातन उसे अनुशंसित कर रहा। एक कालखंड हमें अनुशिक्षित कर रहा, जो था पुरातन उसे अनुशंसित कर रहा। त्यागना होगा जो पश्चिम से मिला, त्यागना होगा जो पश्चिम से मिला, फिर बने सनातन अभिमंत्रित कर रहा, फिर बने सनातन अभिमंत्रित कर रहा। एक कालखंड हमें अनुशिक्षित कर रहा।
सांझ सवेरे रहे पकाऊ, सांझ सवेरे रहे पकाऊ, उब रहे दोपहरिया, साफ सफाई चौक रसोई रोज वही दिनचर्या। सांझ सवेरे रहे पकाऊ, उब रहे दोपहरिया, साफ सफाई चौक रसोई रोज वही दिनचर्या। वो ओस नहीं मेरे आंसू हैं, फूलों में श्रेष्ठ मैं गुलाब रो रहा हूं।
ओह,
नन्हा फूल असमंजस से भर उठा और बोला, अवसाद तो हम जैसों के लिए बना है, जो कभी किसी की नजरों में नहीं आते, जिनका जीवन कभी प्रशंसा नहीं पाता, कोई माली हमें नहीं सहेजता। गुलाब ने कहा, यही तो मेरे अवसाद का कारण है। मैं इतना रूपवान हूं, इसीलिए मैं कभी जी ही नहीं पाता। मैं इतना रूपवान हूं, इसीलिए मैं कभी जी ही नहीं पाता। जितनी बार मैं जन्म लेता हूं, उतनी बार समय से पहले तोड़ लिया जाता है।
मैं खुद में पूरी जननी हूँ, जननी हूँ जीवन भी मैं, जननी हूँ जीवन भी मैं, जज्बातों पे मेरा जोर नहीं। सशक्त हूँ व साकार भी हूँ मैं, सशक्त हूँ व साकार भी हूँ मैं, नारी हूँ कमजोर नहीं।
क्या कविता का मौसम होता है? क्या कविता का कोई मौसम होता है? जो सभी कविता करते हैं। घनी अंधेरी रातों में जब जुगनू सा कोई ख्वाब नया, कोई आस नई जगा जाता है, कोई आस नई जगा जाता है, कविता का मौसम आता है।
सुरभित सुमन कुसुम मंजरी, पुष्प अब हर ओर दिखें। सुरभित सुमन कुसुम मंजरी, पुष्प अब हर ओर दिखें। कुसुमाकर सबको है भाई, सारी बगिया निर्मल रोशन हो नहाई। सारी बगिया निर्मल रोशन हो नहाई।
मैं कैसे स्तुति करूं तुम्हारी हे भगवान, मैं कैसे स्तुति करूं तुम्हारी, हे स्वर में माधुर्य नहीं है, मन का भाव प्रकट करने को वाणी में चातुर्य नहीं है।
Asian American Federation hosted an event to highlight the concerns and issues faced by Asian Americans, especially in terms of race relationships. And the theme was Rise Up Against Hate.
Fellow Asian Americans and New Yorkers of every background taking a stand against the rise in attacks and hate crimes against Asian Americans. 1,900% increase in 2020. This has to end. It has to stop. People are being spit on. They're being stricken. They're being stabbed, slashed, and killed. And we need to put a stop to this spate of hate crimes against Asian Americans. People have made very powerful statements today, and what we need to see is people continuing to speak out, government officials taking action to protect people. Thank you.
We're here in solidarity with our brothers and sisters. We know what it's like to be discriminated at. We know what it's like to be a target of a toxic narrative around immigrant communities. So we're here because your pain is our pain, and we need to stand together against hate, because if we stand together, nothing can basically stop us. So thank you so much for having us and for listening to our voices, because we are your brothers and sisters.
So I'm so happy to see all the people from the different parts of New York and the different races, Black, brown, South Asian, white, all here today to support the Asian community. And the one thing I would like to say, that if you see something, please stand up. Please, help the person who is being attacked. Please make sure that you take a video, because, the last person who was attacked, nobody ever helped him. And as New Yorkers, we should be helping each other.
We at the Federation thought it was really important to rally today against anti-Asian violence, because it's really deeply affecting our communities, and we're looking for community solutions to help bring resources to all of our Asian brothers and sisters so that we can feel safer in our community.
We're happy to, it was hard work to put together a rally in the middle of a pandemic, but we knew we had to do it because people are getting hurt. People who look like our community, they're getting brutalized, and we need to be able to say no, and we need to be able to show support. You guys, excuse me. We need to be able to show support for the victims, our community, our safety, and to make sure that we get the support we need to heal and to be able to, fully participate in our city.
We held this rally because it's really important for, our elected leaders to support resources to keep our community safe, as well as fellow New Yorkers to stand up for our, their Asian neighbors.
My name is Sharzad Shook, and I'm Southwest Asian American, first generation, and I live in the neighborhood, and this is my community. We are here at a rally against anti-violence against Asians, and we've heard a lot of different things today, and mixed political response from all the politicians, but the community, as a community member, what we are asking for is community-based support.
Everyone who has joined together
to fight hatred. We will not accept hatred in New York City. Stop Asian hate. This is the message we have to get out, not just in New York City, but all over this country. Stop Asian hate. Stop it now.
We're going to make sure that we let it known that when you attack one, you attack the entire city. That is what New York is all about. And we will be here with you every day, every moment, to make sure that we bring to justice the people who view hate and attacks as a way of expression. We have a different view in this city. To prevent this from happening, to resource communities, to come up with strategies, to march with you, to fight with you, to bring about change, because we are not gonna let the haters hate. This is over, folks. You are not gonna get away with this. You are not gonna hurt people anymore. We are watching. All eyes on the haters. All eyes on every hater. Listen to what's happening today. We stand with you. Thank you very much.
While every human being is prone to disease, there are some elements of the ethnicity, of the tradition from which you have come, that also results into you're becoming prone for certain disease. And how cardiac disease affects South Asians, and what is the overlap space where cardiac disease and coronavirus may have something in common. Dr. Lisa talked to us about that.
Today, we're at more than 28 million cases in this country with at least 514,000 deaths. In the world, we are at 114 million cases with at least 2.5 million deaths. My first question to you is, we keep on hearing that there's a downward trajectory of cases and deaths going on. However, the numbers are so large. How do you look at it?
So I think it is important to keep that perspective. Yes, overall numbers are down compared to COVID 1.0, if you say the first wave. But recently, if you've seen in Northeast, we've continued to see our numbers fluctuate. It varies in different times. It also varies with different events. So if there have been large gatherings or holidays, we do tend to see a bit of a spike. Recently, I think here, definitely in the Northeast, we haven't seen the numbers trending down as we would like to see them by now going
even more. So when you are looking at these numbers, Doctor, are you at all concerned about a fourth surge of COVID-19? We're hearing about these variants from the UK, South Africa, New York has its own now. How much of that is going to impact these case numbers and deaths?
So I think we are always worried about the next surge. I think the most important thing I would say is being very vigilant, even if you are vaccinated, to make sure that you don't gather in large crowds. You continue to have physical distancing, wear your masks, hand washing, cleaning your surfaces very diligently. I think those are really crucial. The variants have always been there. We are much more cognizant of them, especially the New York one. I think the infectivity rate is higher, so your likelihood of getting it is higher. So the goal really is to make sure that we continue to stay vigilant, we continue to comply with CDC guidelines, and to make sure that we keep ourselves and the folks around us safe by getting vaccinated.
Doctor, what exactly are these virus variants doing to the virus itself, and what is it doing to the body?
I think it's the variants. What they do is the efficacy of the vaccinations definitely get affected, but at the same time, the variants are very similar to as we see in flu, correct? That you can have different types of the flu variant. So if you've been exposed to one, doesn't mean you might not get infected to the other one. So it continues to challenge your immune system, but at the same time, it also tells you that just because you have had COVID in the past doesn't mean you might not get COVID again, and your immune system might have not seen this particular variant. So I think that's an important thing to remember, that it is always mutating and evolving, and we need to make sure that we continue to keep our vigilance.
In the next coming months, come spring, Doctor, Are you seeing these variants impact the trajectory that's going downwards right now? When do you see it become the most prominent right now?
You mean the
variants? When would they really impact us?
I think the variants are very much already evolving and mutating. We saw them in March, we saw them in the fall, and we continue to see them in the winter months. I think the goal is going to be really making sure that everybody gets vaccinated, irrespective of which vaccine we take, in order to keep ourselves, and again, as I said, the folks around you safe. And it's going to really depend on how we are responsible when we are in the community and we are outside, that we continue to maintain our vigilance and masking and keeping our physical distance.
Right. Experts are also saying, doctor, that age groups of 20 to 46 might be responsible for the ongoing surge in cases that we're seeing in some states. And in general, too, they're saying that one age group is very crucial right now. What are your comments on that?
I think that is the age group that the likelihood of having asymptomatic shedding, as we call them, is that, they might not show all the symptoms of COVID, but they can continue to transmit it. I think that's also the group that likelihood of socializing and colleges and gathering in crowds. I think that is another reason. But it is important to remember that it could be any age group. It could be anyone that could be shedding without realizing that they even have COVID. So irrespective of the age group, COVID doesn't differentiate between age, doesn't differentiate between genders. I think it is each of our responsibility to make sure that we curtail this.
Yes, for sure. Let's talk about the vaccines, doctor. I have a lot of questions in regards to that. The first question is, how have you observed Moderna and Pfizer vaccine? And have you seen any differences in side effects from both the vaccines?
I think both of them have a similar side effect symptoms. Either it's local reaction or fatigue or fever or body ache. Not seen much of a difference between both of them in the reactivity. Very similar patterns, both for Moderna and Pfizer. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there any difference between the mechanisms of the vaccines at all?
So I think both the vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, work on the mRNA. The J&J works a little different. It's a vector variant, slightly different. But majority of them are really targeted towards curtailing COVID and your likelihood of getting infection. And efficacy, as we all know, for Moderna and Pfizer is in the 95th%. But for J&J, it's slightly lower. But I would say with J&J, it is more efficacy or efficacious for folks that have severe disease of COVID and hospitalized patients. So that definitely is promising.
And now time to say goodbye from today's Vision of Asia, but also time to remember, do join us, be our friends on our Facebook page, subscribe to ITV Gold's YouTube channel and keep writing to us, events@itvgold.com. Thank you very much for supporting us, for being a part of this ITV Gold family. Stay safe, take care. This is Ashok Vyas. Namaste.